Welcome back, ladies and gents, to HTO. We've got a special episode. It's another one of our preview episodes. You are, though, still, as ever, joined by your co-hosts, Andrew and Tom. We're here, though, to preview our fantastic HTO Photography Series. Really looking forward to this one. We're looking at the world's best sports photography, and all the emotions that drives. Really looking forward to this one. It's exciting, isn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, can't wait for this one. It's going to be a cracker. Looking forward to the chats, and also looking back at some old photos down the years that we might have taken and seeing how they sort of match up with the pros.
Yeah, match up. Yeah, I think better than the pros these days. Look, I've got an iPhone. Other phones are available, obviously. You know, I'm sure we can do just as good a job as the pros that we get on our pod. I'm sure they'll disagree, and rightly so. We've got some really great guests lined up, and I just love talking about to the creatives. You know, our film series, HTO film series. If you've not listened, obviously go onto our social channels, find the episodes, and listen to them because we've got some fantastic guests on there, directors and producers from the very best sports films ever and sports TV series. But look, we're trying to create the same thing with our photography series, and we're really exciting. Shall I go for a bit of the lineup?
Yeah, go for it.
Tease the lineup. What do you know? Genuinely, what I'm really excited about this lineup is the sort of the range of guests we've got. You know, different generations, different techniques, different caliber of photographers, and that's what's really exciting. So we've got Young Photographer of the Year, IOC, Chloe Knott, making huge waves in the photography game, and that's really exciting. And what would be really interesting for our students and our listeners to hear is sort of how do you get into modern sports photography now? Because what I imagine it's going to be a very different tale to what's told by our other two guests. Our other two guests we're welcoming him back for their second cap on the pod, the fantastic head of photography at Arsenal, Stuart McFarlane. Obviously someone at the very top of his game, been at Arsenal for 2-3 decades now, seen it all at the club. We're also welcoming, and personally really excited about this one, Andy Bernstein, who is the chief photographer at the Staples Center in LA. And that means obviously the chief photographer for the LA Lakers, LA Clippers. He's been there again 2 or 3 decades, and literally photographed everyone. You know, we're talking the biggest stars in the sporting world, from Kobe Bryant, LeBron James to presidents and all the he photographed the dream team, photographed the dream team, and in the NBA dream team going to win the Olympic gold there. So really different end of the spectrum. It'd be really exciting to see how a photographer does it over there. So great range of guests, and as Andrew said, also delving into some lesser known photographers, i.e. the both of us. So that's going to be exciting as well.
I think as well with these sorts of guests talking about the creatives is that, don't get me wrong, it's great when you talk to stars of the game that have been on the pitch. For we've talked to FA Cup winners and World Cup winners on the pod, but there's something about these hidden stars, the ones that are behind the camera, and the ones that are behind the sort of directing of things. I just think it's really nice to kind of get their view and their take on not just their career, but also their take on the characters that they've sort of snapped.
Absolutely. What I found speaking to the sort of the film producers and directors, and based on, and also when we've chatted to Stuart McFarlane before as well, so we know what he's about, is they were all incredibly humble, and they're all very quick to say, we're just capturing these superstars at work. I remember the Turner saying, I can't believe this is our job. We're so lucky to film people like Usain Bolt and that kind of thing. But what they don't probably give themselves enough credit for is that they are capturing the experience of so many millions of people around the world. People will look at the photo of Muhammad Ali standing over Sonny Liston for decades and decades and decades and decades beyond. Yes, there would have been a few thousand people in the arena that night, and they, of course, will have their own experiences and own memories from that. But actually, you're impacting far more people by videoing or photographing these occasions than by being there live on the occasion itself. Stuart's capturing moments from FA Cup finals and winning moments for Arsenal that people will look at for many, many decades. We're going to speak to Andy Bernstein about the unfortunate and tragic passing of Kobe Bryant. We're going to speak to him about sort of Magic Johnson's sort of HIV diagnosis, and the world of that world looking at him, and that incident in the early 90s when that we're talking about huge global events, and he's captured those through time. And we're going to be looking at that, and those people's memories are often dictated by the photographs and the videos of those occasions. We aren't all lucky enough to be in the stadia for those moments, and actually the experience is lived through these photographers and these videographers.
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, that's the most powerful thing about any type of photography, is that doesn't matter when it was taken, and years later you'll see it and it will just immediately take you back, and you can see and smell what you smell and feel what you felt, and I think there's pictures I still look at now and immediately just throw you back. And I think that's why it's such an emotive industry to work in. You're having such an impact on people without talking. And I mean, there's pictures that we both share with each other every now and then, just as a throwback. You've got your one next to Ian Wright outside Highbury on Avenel Road, was it? I think.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to meet Ian Wright 2 or 3 times. My childhood hero, and a favourite photo of mine is obviously it was after actually a 1-0 defeat to Liverpool in the 90s. Stephen McManaman goal at Highbury. Met him after the game, and he was good as gold. He was sort of happy to take a photo with me and my friend. Obviously, so we were fairly young kids at the time, so he was able to put on a smile, even though I'm sure he was livid, knowing how passionate Ian is about the game post defeat. But ultimately that will always take me back, and that's such a memory. Like I said, you're capturing a moment in time for people. And for me, that was a 10-year-old going along to a football game, seeing their heroes, and actually his ability to sit there and pose for a photo with me means the world.
Yeah, good goal, but an absolutely shocking kit, if I can remember rightly.
That cream kit, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that they had. Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah,
one good looping goal, but yeah, not a good result. But
yeah, and I think one of mine would probably be, I've got a picture of me standing under the bar at the clock end at Highbury. There was like a fans day, and one of my mates happened to just ask me I was his +1 for the day, and sitting in the stands, and all of a sudden get called to join in really with the fun, and ended up scoring a couple of goals on the turf at Highbury, and that picture will be with me forever. And I think that's what's so good about photos, is it's, like I said a minute ago, it just takes you back, and you wouldn't have that emotion and that memory otherwise,
I'm really keen to ask the pros, obviously, Andy, Chloe, Stuart, what it means now in the modern world, because almost everyone can be a photographer. Everyone can carry those memories in their pocket, because you've got digital cameras and obviously your phones, which can take actually really good quality photos these days. So it's such an accessible discipline and an accessible way of working now, probably more so than you can't go and create a film documentary, you can't not to a proper edited standard necessarily still in that same way. You can of course capture video, but it's not quite the same. Whereas I'd love to know now how the industry, how a professional photographer sort of, what they do differently to you and I, basically, is what I mean. That's going to be really interesting to hear their tale, hear how they got into their world of taking photos, and what it means to them, because like I say, it means so much to us.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I think that if you ask the average sports fan, name me 5 sports photographers, I think they'd struggle. Like,
They probably struggle to name more than 1 or 2, to honest with you.
I might be doing the average sports fan a disservice there, but I think that it's a profession that, like you said, it's so accessible, and anyone can take a photo now to a decent level with all the filters and whatnot and the pixels that these cameras have. And I think that might be a reason why these sports photographers just do remain quite sort of hidden and anonymous, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think ultimately they're capturing something. They're catching the action, aren't they? They're behind the lens, not in front of it. And although that's obvious, I think they're quite happy. I know Stuart very much is. So Stuart's a big friend of the pod now, and we know him. He's very happy to be behind that lens, snapping away. Doesn't want the limelight. As great a guy as he is. So that's going to be really, really exciting series. Really looking forward to it. We'll probably be sort of talking about our favorite photos down the years as well. We'll be tweeting and sort of announcing on our social channels for you to talk about your favorite photos ever taken as well. There's some real crackers. One of my favorite sports photos ever, I think, Tiger Woods driving on the 18th at Augusta one year at the Masters. I think it's early 2000, so either 2000 or 2001, maybe 2001 when he was going to try and complete the Tiger Slam, win the 4 majors in a row, which he did. Still the only golfer in the modern game to ever do so. Just plugging my greatest of all time thing there. But there's a fantastic photo of him teeing off, and you've got for anyone who knows the 18th Augusta, an alleyway of trees on either side, and then the fans just flanking him on both sides. And it's just sort of like the focus and the attention and obviously what's quite a sedate and quiet sport. Yeah, this almost this theory or this feeling of a sort of anticipation before the tee shot. It's a fantastic photo.
Yeah, I think, and also there's different facets to this, isn't there? Because I'm thinking of photos now where it's just the pure emotion that I felt like when the Henri knee slide in front of the Spurs fans at Highbury. Not necessarily the technically most majestic shot, but it's the emotion involved and what the story behind it. Whereas that picture you've spoken about Tiger there, and one of mine was Ali's knockout of Cleveland Williams in the 60s, where I think it's Neil Lafer's overhead, which is just a fantastic photo of symmetry as well. Like literally, it's similar to the Tiger one with the framing of the ring. Yeah. And you've got Ali like in the corner, like holding his arms up above, and Cleveland Williams almost like sprawled on his back. Like it's very cinematic, And I think that's also what's interesting about this, and that will come up in the chats hopefully, of the completely different sides to it as well.
Yeah, completely. And Neil Lafer there, one of the best photographers ever from a sports lens. Really be interested to get Andy Bernstein's take on him and some other inspirations, especially from a US lens, because obviously Andy's photographed everyone, from the biggest NBA players to sort of ice hockey players to NFL. So like I said, to US presidents galore. So I'm really keen to get Andy's take on sort of the debate there around sort of the best sports people ever, but also what it takes to capture different sports. We're going to speak to Chloe and Stuart, and obviously they're predominantly in the world of football, whereas it'd be really great to get Andy's take on sort of capturing moments at different paces of sports as well. NBA, frenetic, so fast, up and down, probably when action's going, one of the fastest sports in the world, because it's literally up and down, ball moves at such pace, to something that's a bit more sedate or slow paced, and that'll be really interesting as well to talk about that. But yeah, just in general, really excited about it. Hopefully there'll be lots of engagement online. Like I said, more than happy to sort of see and all your fantastic photos that you've taken or just your favorite ones from down the years from sporting events. Please do send them in.
And as ever, we'll be joined by some students, Tom, won't we? We've got some students lined up.
We will do. As ever, we want to sort of give people the opportunity to come on the pod, do a little bit of questioning of their sporting heroes, but also just get the exposure to sort of throwing some questions on the gun. So absolutely, there'll be more student opportunities coming up, and we'll be giving the platform to at least 3 more students during the process. So, as ever, follow us on @HTO Football, all those usual social channels: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We don't have to say them; you know where they are. And for the latest pods, as ever, get on your Apple Podcast, Spotify. They're all out there. Give a listen and speak soon.
See you later, guys. Take care.